Hello and welcome to a tournament of lies, the weekly video game podcast where three friends from around the world attempt to rate every single video game in order of bestness, and we're doing a great job so far. We got 26 games on this list. Last week's episode we had Uncharted 2 introduced, Gears of War, Skate, Saints Row the Third, and not too much crazy angry feedback on those, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. Dennis Walsh, how about you?
Yeah, feeling great. We're moving onwards and upwards.
Upwards, although some games are moving down, further down. The order has never been as low as it is now.
Yep, and as much as we addressed getting Unreal Championship off the bottom, it's still going down in New Mercy.
Oh my god, give me a second. I'm gonna just stay there for 1 sec. Stay there.
Free frame.
Where is it? Oh shit. You
Yeah,
said freeze frame, but I didn't do it. I'll do it now.
You guys can't see me right now, but
No.
I'm holding up to the screen right
Technology
now.
doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't. Well, I haven't set it up properly, apparently. I am holding up to the screen, my camera right now, a copy of Unreal Championship 2, the Liantry Conflict on the original Xbox.
Very
which I ordered on Amazon, I feel like, a month ago, and it took quite a while to get here. Yeah, and apparently it's got backwards compatibility, which is actually doesn't really help me out that much because I have a European Xbox, but I'm sure I'll figure out some way of doing it. So
maybe I can get us 2 copies over here or something.
Perfect, and if we can play it online.
Exactly. On European servers.
God damn it.
That don't exist.
That's true actually. Good folks
I'm
at
sure you can find an
Midway.
Xbox in a pawn shop by now. It'll be fine.
An Xbox. Oh god, you're right.
Either.
Oh yeah, probably. I mean, do I want to carry it home? It's probably pretty weighty. James O'Connor in Hollywood, California. How are you doing, my friend?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing?
Great. I've played a bunch of great games this week. Doom came out.
Oh, very cool.
Turns out Doom's okay. I was expecting it to be a real fucking dumpster fire, but it's actually like fantastic.
Is there like a parallel into how much the kind of world is shocked that Doom is good into like the most recent Wolfenstein is actually brilliant?
Yeah, it's very similar thing where it's like, oh, you guys managed to make a game which, you know, is not, it like mirrors the old game while being entirely a 2016 video game. What I'm so surprised about this is that I was just expecting a sort of regular first-person shooter that has, you know, it's got like modern trappings, but it has the you know, what would you call it, like the facade of a Doom game, so like the BFG and a rocket launcher and like an imp and all that, but it's actually like a straight up a Doom 1 and 2 game where you enter these big arenas that have yellow keys hidden and blue keys hidden, and you're like doing a lot of backtracking and looking at the map and trying to find out where you're going, and it's like super fun. So I've been really taken aback by that. And then the other one I've been playing a lot of today and yesterday, and I think I've almost completed it, is Uncharted 4.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Have either of you had a chance to give it a go yet?
No, haven't at all.
No.
I think it just came out in Europe on 2 days ago. So
Tuesday maybe, actually. I think it came out.
Oh, was it
in the
really?
middle of the week this time? Yeah, I think so. But
That's
maybe Friday. But I think it was a non-regular release date.
That's funny because Doom also was, because that came out on a Friday here in the States, which was a little bit weird. But yeah, Uncharted 4 is fucking absolutely like magnificent. Like, I'm not even a massive fan of that series, and I know we said Uncharted 2 is the best game in the series. This is like better than Uncharted 2. This is like the best third-person action adventure game ever made, probably. Okay. It's really something else. So because of that, I've basically not touched the Purgatory of Lies. I'm so sorry. I've still not played the Stanley Parable. I promise I'll have my homework in next week.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just going to take 2 hours of your life, so whatever.
Well, I will say as well, we might, once you get to that list, we will be able to talk about Uncharted Afghanistan, which is, of course, Spec Ops The Line. Oh, no, sorry, Dubai.
Dubai. Sandy, beautiful, sand-molested Dubai. James, what are you thinking of Have you completed it yet? Can we talk about it yet?
No, I'm like 3/4 of the way through. We can leave it a week if we have lists and do like a proper like purgatory run through for stuff. But I won't say too much. But that's the game I've been going back to a lot this week.
Have you
about a few hours at a trot?
Where's the hand going? Is the thumb pointing up, or
you know what? It's right in the middle. I'm gonna keep it right in the middle right now.
All right, so we'll find out, I guess, next week whether or not Spec Ops is getting to the top of the list or to the bottom of the list. Have you guys played anything else on Purgatory of Lies? I know Stanley Parable, you've both dealt with it. I still haven't jumped in. Apologize.
Yeah, I grabbed the new the new, what did I say? The new Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Adventure. I grabbed it on my 3DS, so played that a little bit. I'll say literally nothing more, but it's at least being played.
And Ratchet and Clank, how's your progress on that?
Completed, so yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. I feel like you guys aren't going to play it, so whenever we get around to Purgatory episode, I'll rank it.
I will say this, I tried to set up an emulator to play it, but it was not that great of an experience, so I might try and get it on a PS3 and give it. I was tempted to. I am tempted to give it a look, so...
Well, yes, we'll try not to rate the games based on how well you can emulate them in 2016. We'll have to see. I don't know. We'll see about Unreal the Leandri conflict. It looks like Unreal Tournament on the back of the box, so I don't know what everyone's giving out about, but I guess I'll find out soon enough. Okay, so today's list, actually one little piece of housekeeping. tournamentoflies.com is now a website. Actually, a more accurate version of that sentence would be tournamentoflies.com is now a Google Docs spreadsheet. Which has a tab for every episode, so we are keeping track of every single entry by week. If you load it up, by default it'll show the table as it stood at the start of this episode, so it'll show the end of last week's. But the latest episode I have attached to the rightmost spreadsheet on the bottom of the page. So all the information is there if you need to see it. But I also want to give a shout out to, I'm going to say this right first time, Kashire Nikravesh, who put together a dope little Tournament of Lies website in the interim, which I will say looks a lot better than what I've created. So
it's not even a contest.
No, so thank you so much. There should be a link on your screen right now if you're watching this on the video version, and if you're listening to the audio version, do you know what the link is again, Dennis? Do you have it there with you?
Oh, it's like a tournamentoflies.card.co. It's like CARRD.co, I think. But yeah, don't hold me to it.
Okay, so last week I feel like I didn't introduce the best games. No, we always said we'd rotate around the who was sort of sourcing them. So this week, Mr. Walsh, I have some if you're stuck, but I believe that you've sourced from our master list from all the emails at lies@tournamentoflies.com. You've picked out a nice little sample of games. So I'm going in totally blind this time, just like James.
Yeah, so I've taken two lists. That, I perused the lists and I took ones that I think were a little bit avoiding of Purgatory. They're games that I'm pretty confident everybody's played. And they're actually maybe ones that were being avoided because they were, at least some of them were almost too big.
Oh my.
Like, we can't go rating that at the moment because it's so obvious to rate that game almost. So
right.
I'm not sure we were doing that, but look. We're throwing these in now. We're going to get some, in my opinion, pretty big rankings here. So yeah, let's have some fun with these ones.
Yeah, I'm excited. That's good. I feel like I was definitely doing that. But we are on episode 6, so let's just stop fucking about, I guess, and get into it.
Yeah, let's get some kind of... Okay, Super Mario World's a super high watermark anyway, but there's a few new kind of watermarks that are going to maybe separate the different kind of trunks of our list. But are you boys ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so our first list comes from @rip_off. And the first game is from the year 2000, so a pretty modern game. Only 16 years ago. Jesus Christ. Developed by the unknown Ion Storm.
Oh, I know.
PC
I think
game
already.
Ported to PC, PS2. It's Deus Ex.
Oh, wow.
Oh my god, the wild and wacky adventures of Mr. J.C. Denton.
Oh, the greatest focus group name of all time.
Yeah, I've completed Deus Ex multiple times. James, how do you fare on this one?
I have played and finished Deus Ex.
Okay.
Same. So we're in good stead here. So let's look. Danny, you played and completed it multiple times. Get into it.
Okay, so Deus Ex is, Iron Storm, the folks behind this game, this was supposed to be like a bunch of the biggest designers of all time, like Warren Spector, John Romero, like all these incredible designers coming together to make like the best games ever. Then they made Daikatana, and they made Anachronox, and eventually they got around to Deus Ex, which... I can't really remember what the what the feeling was before it came out. I remember just reading the review, and it's like one of my favorite reviews ever in PC Gamer that Kieran Gillen wrote, and it's just it's breaking down how beautiful this game is, because it's basically like the tentpole of emergent gameplay. So the idea that you have this sort of playground to play with, what we sort of later come to call sandboxes, and then you had all these tools, and there was weapons, and there was, you know, different types of like multi-tools you could use, and then there was the RPG elements where you were good at certain things, and, you know, you were able to hack terminals if you did them the right way, and basically giving you this sort of open-ended playground to try and complete each level. And each level kind of felt like that. It was like a Hitman level almost, where you were like, just go at it. You know, you're here now, and figure it out. And then emergent gameplay happens when you basically, you try and do something, and then because of the way you have acted, the world reacts in a sort of a natural way, and then you're forced to think how to solve the problem based on how it's reacted. And that's basically Deus Ex in a nutshell. This is a game where you are constantly seeing what works and prodding and prying, and because of that, it's so much fun to replay over and over again, because like trying to get up to the Statue of Liberty, do you hack the terminals at the bottom and like turn the robots against their masters? Do you blow your way through with like rocket launchers and just spec up that way? Do you stealth in? You know, do you just, you know, pick up a cardboard box or a tin box and throw it on the ground, and then use that to mantle up like a ridge? Like back in 2000, I mean, like a lot of that stuff, you know, you think of BioShock or whatever, like that's where these games ended up going. All those games have only just been trying to copy Deus Ex. And I think like it's like it's like maybe the best first-person role-playing game ever made. I mean, maybe role-playing, it seems weird saying that when you think about what's happened with the Elder Scrolls series, because that's sort of a different thing. But it's one of the best first-person shooters on PC ever made, regardless. And it is maybe the best first-person role-playing game. Certainly the most like tied together. Like we expect jank in role-playing games so much, like Oblivion and, you know, even Daggerfall and Morrowind. Like these are games that allow you to do quite a lot, but they're sort of like held together with duct tape and string. But Deus Ex just like worked. Deus Ex made sense, and you could play that game passive, and you could play that game, you know, as the biggest son of a bitch ever, and it was just great. And I even liked the ending where you got to choose the different ways to the world sort of lived. It's among a very few number of games that I would say is like perfect. I rambled.
No. That was a heck of a ramble, and like it's going to be hard to add anything to it. But James, give it a go.
No, I was going to say, I think you covered the base and a lot of the points I have, and I agree. It was like one of those things that I think when Initiate was coming through and it was called an RPG, it sort of threw me off that it was first person, because I think most games, when they're first person, they're shooters. That for the most part. There's a few exceptions, but that's what it went through, and it's definitely one of those things that I agree. I played through. I just doing, you know, every level you can have 10 different ways to sort of almost finish it or get to that end result. And I would say the thing that most people probably redid, and I know I did, was the Statue of Liberty, because there's several ways to go through. It's the first like thing you open with, but it was the fact that you could literally go 5 different ways to get to the end, or whether it's as you said, shoot your way through, program through. Then it was just, you know, that it was sort of, at least for me, the first game where you almost took that element of like statting up a character and giving him different skills, and that's what would allow you to go through. Like even from the point of like how I remember, I think when I played through, I went more for like a lot of the intelligent speech way, so my shooting and fighting was pointless anyway because I hadn't statted it up.
Yeah, I mean, if you were trying to use a sniper rifle in that game, when the sniper rifle like statistics, it was super hard. Like you'd scope and it would just be floating around all over the place. So it was like very real. It wasn't like the sort of bullshit stats you get in a lot of role-playing games today.
So like I'm sure a lot of our listeners are probably fans of yours, Danny, and have been watching Naked and Gunless Fallout playthrough. Right. And like Naked and Gunless, Fallout 4, but also one that's on our list already, LA Noire, are both very good examples of how like games try to have these grandiose ideas of like you can play it in any way you want, you can be the decision maker, but really they're still really geared towards just go shoot everybody, shoot them all, they must all be shot. Whereas Deus Ex, 16 years ago, actually had a game where you felt like you were in control, and that is like its biggest victory.
Yeah, 100%, and it's probably not been done as well since. Like, you could, like, at the start of the game, I think that one level, and like obviously you go all around the world, there's like Shanghai levels, and you go all over the place. But that first level, I think your brother at the start gives you, who looks like this fucked up cosplayer of Dave Navarro, by the way, he gives you like the option of like a stun baton or something else, and like you can go through that level with the stun baton, like legitimately. It's not like this awful crutch. In fact, if anything, it stops all the massive robots coming after you if you make too much of a ruckus. So yeah, it totally did. It was also like really well written and funny. Like there was funny characters in it, like the fucking big hulking dude who's like at the Coke machine and he's like, it gave me orange, I asked for lemon lime. It's like, and special awards as well for calling the name of your drug, your in-universe drug, ambrosia. Delicious.
I will say as well, like to mirror Dennis' sentiment, it did flash through my head was like, to a degree, how disappointed or almost pointless the VAT system is in the later Fallouts, because I think if they made a Fallout, I mean, it'd probably cause bedlam, but I like the VAT system, the way it works, the way it adds more like a role playing or like almost like a dice game to it. But the amount of times in Fallout games I've just turned off VATs, just gone to first person, just start swinging, and so stats don't matter.
Well, that I guess to Dennis's point, like Fallout was originally, Fallout 3 was a game where the shooting was so poor that you had to use VATs, which almost worked in its favor. But then people hated that so much that they fixed the shooting in Fallout 4. But then you don't really need to use... VATS is now a combat mechanic. Like, it's a shooting accuracy mechanic, whereas before there was sort of more to it. And that's what Fallout is now. Fallout is a first-person shooter with RPG trappings, whereas Deus Ex is a game where you've that freedom that you had in System Shock 1 and 2. And, like, those are probably the 3 games that have ever really done this and, like, given real player agency over, like, how moral... Like, where you want to stand on the moral... thing. Because Bioshock tried it and failed. Like, it succeeded loads of other things. Bioshock Infinite tried it and failed fucking miserably. Whereas, like, Deus Ex is still one of the only games that's ever done it. It's crazy. Super game.
Yeah. So, not much more to say. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take over. There's something to say. I have no idea at all that Kieran Gillen was with PC Gamer. We are talking the same really? Kieran Gillen who writes... Mind blown. Yeah. I could just go right behind us here, pull out a bunch of Wicked and the Divine and like Young Avengers and stuff that he's writing. He's one of my favourite authors. He's incredible. What a man. He's probably not listening to this, but I love you, Kieran Gillen. Okay, cool.
When I got the internet for the first time back in 1998, 99, the first person I emailed was Kieran Gillen.
Unbelievable.
And I met him, and it's the one time I've severely probably embarrassed myself talking to somebody. I met him at the Video Game Awards the first year I was working at GameSpot and totally fucking nerded out. And he was like actually kind of like a little bit freaked out by me. And I had to like walk away. But yeah, his review of Deus Ex is like the best review I've ever written. It's super good.
Incredible.
I think I've read the same thing. And again, as someone else who like back in the day, PC Gamer, Dennis, I had sort of the same thing like 3 or 4 years ago when his name popped up on a few comics, and I was like, I wonder, and I googled it and I realized because he was the editor for a while there at PC Gamer, and I think, they were all great articles. The UK PC Gamer I think was probably one of the better review magazines that ever existed. At least
go back and read PC Zone, and you've got Charlie Brooker's name on that, and then PC Gamer UK before Kieran Gillen's era, the one before that, Gary Whitta was the fucking editor. Yeah. Who's now written Book of Eli. He's now writing a Star Wars movie. It's fucking crazy.
I was almost a little proud. I was like, oh, he started a PC game. Not that I had anything, but I was like, oh, I liked him when he wrote reviews about games, and now he's got his career with Marvel. So
well, cool. I know where he'd put this on the list. I'll say that.
Excellent.
Pretty high, and I think we'll put it pretty high too. But do we know where?
Pretty high too. That's a good point.
Yes, I think there's definitely some meatiness to Deus Ex, but do you really get that whole world experience when doing it? I don't think so.
But is it super enough?
Super JC Denton, that's what they call him.
They do.
I mean, the guy's name is JC. JC. He's your fucking messianic first-person shooter character right there.
If you ask me though, I mean, there's so many games with spies in them, like plumbers, Italian plumbers, ethnic plumbers. There's only a couple. There's only really one dude that has that market. So
ethnic plumbers. Are you saying like Mario? Mario is like a champion of diversity in video games.
Yeah, a good guy. Probably has a union job. You know, probably is. You know, he has a Guzman peach.
Super Meat Boy is a piece of meat. There's literally no skin. He's got no skin color. He's just completely across demographics. Like, come on.
Oh, I don't. Okay, where do you guys think this is going?
Beneath Mario Strikers charged, and I think
no. 1, 2, or 3. I don't know. I struggle.
So
I have no problem putting it 2, but that's because Dennis loves Super Meat Boy.
It hurts me to put it there, but I can absolutely understand it. But like, I almost like if it's going 2, it's going number 1.
No, it would kill me.
That's the most Dennis Walsh thing I've ever heard. You're so
Yeah.
in for a penny, in for a pound. It's like your fucking mantra.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's above Mario Strikers Charge. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no question.
And it's above Meat Boy as well. I like Meat Boy is a perfect game as well, Dennis. Like, I'm totally with you. Like, I love Meat Boy, maybe not as much as you, but like super close. But like, it's like picking children a bit. But like, Deus Ex is just the one thing I have though is that like when you put Super Mario World and Deus Ex up together, is that like Mario World is like many consider to be the. I feel like most people consider that to be the best Mario game.
They probably say Mario 3, being honest.
Yeah, Mario 3.
Oh, really?
Then they might, you know what? They might even be bastards and make the jump and say Mario 64. And
there'll be a lot of
the
people
next
who will make a strong argument about the galaxies, both of them.
Right. Oh, yeah, that's true. Both those are great. No love for Sunshine, though, I'm hearing.
That's a great game, but no, I don't think
it really
people
is.
say it's the best ever. Yeah,
I don't know. I like.
There's a bit of me that wants to like just. You know, everybody else has to feel the pain. If Deus Ex is going above Super Meat Boy, it's gotta go first.
And I honestly think, Danny, this is your of the list so far, this is your number 1 is Deus Ex.
Yeah, like I
think
I don't know enough about Mario World to say whether or not it's better or worse than it. I feel like I don't know if it's in its favor or not. But what I think Deus Ex did all those 16 years ago, I think nobody's done it better since, and that's kind of depressing. I mean, Invisible War was a fun game, but it was sort of like the Tomb Raider 2 to Tomb Raider, where it was a bit too much shoot and not enough RPG. But like, it did have a pretty cool cockfighting thing at the start, though, with aliens. That was alright. But I don't know. It's number 1 for me, but it would be because I'm not a early days NES SNES fan.
My vote is for number 1.
It's fine. It's number 1. We could put number 1. Because if you really think about it, all those kids born 16 years ago running around with the name JC Denton after parents after playing this game.
15 years ago.
Is it number 1?
15.
Yeah.
It is number 1.
Get in. We have a new number 1 on the
Absolutely.
list. Gosh, from Ion Storm, Deus Ex.
Well done at Ripoff. And now we're going to have a new number 1 and then another new number 1.
I was about to say, yeah.
Nah, not really. So
it's going to be one of those things where he quickly wins the belt, and then
someone catches in the money in the
Vince
bank.
comes out, yeah, exactly. Hulk Hogan comes, pins him.
Absolutely, it's going to be cheers at dawn. So are we good for another from this very good list?
Yes, let's do it.
Spoiler alert: very good list.
Okay.
The year is 1995.
Okay.
You've got maybe a PC. You might have a PlayStation. Who knows? A Game Boy, a Genesis, or Mega Drive. Same thing, I suppose. An Amiga, SNES, Saturn, or Jaguar. Doesn't matter, because you're playing Worms.
Oh wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah, the original Worms, Team 17's pretty iconic game that spawned, I don't know, about 24 sequels.
Too many.
Yeah, well, like, they broke the mold, right?
Yeah. They invented a new type of game that hadn't been made before. James, when did you play Worms for the first time?
Probably, funny enough, and I will say this up front, after I probably played Worms 2.
Right.
Which I feel is the one I would probably say is the real genre thing. But I have played Worms, and again I will say what it set forward, or at least changed, was very good.
You
So
cannot.
I mean, probably back in the 90s, like late 90s, 97, 98.
You can't see right now, you guys, but everyone else can see that I'm holding up a copy of Worms on the Amiga 600 right now.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
With I remember it had the intro video on the back of the box, which was just as well because the Amiga version didn't get the intro video, which is sad. Yeah, this is a crazy game, and this was made by Andy Davidson, who I believe he did this, and then Team 17 bought it off of him, or at least brought him in.
Sure.
So he also was the guy who did like Alien Breed 1 and 2, which were
wow.
really cool games too. But yeah, I got this. I don't know when I got this. Probably illegally. Although this one, actually, now that I think about it, this box does have one of those unbreakable code booklets that's written in black with all the numbers on in black as well, so you can't photocopy it, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that game was it was like they invented a new genre. It was like, okay, we have this game, and it's just a bunch of people standing on a 2D like world, but instead of it being like Mario where it's all squares, it can kind of be jaggedy and weird, and you have to figure out how to use these like kind of awful imprecise weapons to kill each other. Like super simple idea, and it just like, I mean, that's probably why it spawned like so many sequels, right? Because it's just at its most simple, it's a really obvious thing, and then you just keep adding new types of weapons in, and it's still fun, right?
Yeah,
absolutely. Like if this game is coming out now, it would probably come out on mobile, and it would have like a Avengers Worms and like DC Universe Worms and like Star Wars Worms, and just be licensed to all hell. Because it's one of those games that's like super applicable to like anything, but it's just a great game and just really fun. I think maybe one of the debates we'd have to have is like where we think it falls within its own series, because I think even the very first thing James said, Worms 2 is maybe the most iconic in the series, possibly. I don't know, that's definitely up for debate, but it's a really, really superb sequel. But yeah, I think we've all had a bunch of fun with this. I think you say about the imprecise weapons, it actually made the skill level so high, because if you can really control weapons, you just win. And it's almost like Rocket League or something in that way, that if you're just actually better than your opponent, you can just always beat them 100% of the time, kind of thing. So
yeah, you're right. Like, remember figuring out that you could use the rope and drop the dynamite when you had the rope, but then there was always that thing where you were also seconds away from just fucking murdering yourself by accident, like landing the dynamite in the wrong spot and getting blown halfway across the map, or like trying to do the dragon punch and being like 3 pixels out and just jumping in the air and like just hitting nobody.
Yeah, taking your eye off the timer for just a second, when you're setting up a move. Like and it actually brings me back to talking about Super Meat Boy as well, another one on our list, because it has that beautiful humor that breaks up frustration, and I have so much time for that. It's almost a mechanic in itself that, if you can just make somebody laugh at their most annoyed, then you're doing such a great job.
It's so much fun when you had like 4 people playing too, and you had those like 4v4 v4 games, right? Because then you'd always have that one poor sod who, like, one airstrike blew 3 of his worms off the thing, so then they end up like mining themselves into the middle of the map so nobody could get them, and just like putting mines on the outside and just like staying there. It was so good.
So many fantastic kind of scenarios would pop up in any, and so this is probably one area where my knowledge isn't super. Was Worms, like the rest of the series, procedurally generated? Was like every map just okay? Cool. Just making sure.
They were seeds, so you could reload the seeds as well, and then they had hidden seeds in there as well, so you could you could get a seed off of your friend and be like, oh, I found this crazy level, and then type it in.
Okay.
It would come up.
Perfect. Yeah, because like that was kind of part of the brilliance of it, that like you just load up a game and you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know where you're going to spawn, where everything's going to work out, and it just it was just mad ass fun.
Even the levels themselves were funny, because they were like big versions of like normal places, so it looked like a war zone, but then it had like a bucket that was like huge, it was like it was clearly happening at like a human scale.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right, there was like Worms Armageddon came out a couple of years later. Worms 2 came out, I guess actually that Armageddon was after 2. Those 2 were probably the big ones. I actually whenever like the argument comes up about what the best 2D to 3D conversion ever has been, I mean, Mario comes up with Mario 64, Grand Theft Auto comes up a lot as well. I think Worms 3D may be my favorite of the Worms games, and I'm a little bit a lot of me and Dale, who's our sort of collective friend as well, who I'm sure we'll get on the podcast sometime. The two of us played the shit out of Worms 3D. It was
really
wonderful. And
I'm
then,
shocked to hear that.
Yeah, because a lot of people don't like it.
I don't even not like it. I don't like. It's possible I played it, but I certainly haven't played much of it. And
I would have played it like once or twice with someone and not in depth.
It's exactly the kind of game I would think would be absolute garbage. But.
Yeah, for sure. It had a load of like interesting little challenges in it. And then do you remember that Rick Mail game, Hogs of War, that came out?
Yes.
There was like the pig version of Worms 3D. That was kind of alright as well. But yeah, sorry, we're talking about Worms.
That's
good. Old 1995 Worms.
Unless anyone has anything else to say, let's get ranking it.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Oh, it's a toughie, isn't it?
Jeez, because you're right. Like, it is such a wonderful game. You have to kind of rank it lower than, in your head than games like Worms 2 or Worms Armageddon. But then it was also like the seed of this tree that just won't stop sprouting new limbs.
Yeah, there's a new one coming out this year.
Jesus.
Like that. That's what I agree with. Like, I mean, I respect its beginnings. Like, almost of like a fun way of doing the old school like Tank Commander or whatever the game was, where you're on cliffs shooting at each other. It was a fresh way to do that. But in my mind, just knowing that at some point Worms 2 will be on this list, and just knowing the leaps and bounds it made and then continued to make with all the other ones, it's a harsh one to try and place now.
For me, it's still in the top 5. I
can live with that, but I think we're talking 5.
Yeah. Our love for Mario Strikers Charged is just like probably infuriating to everyone.
In some ways, I want to put it behind Crash Bandicoot. And I think it's not a hateful place to put it. It's pretty strong. It's above Gears of War. These big games, Skate.
Big
Crash,
Skate.
The biggest budget game ever made. I don't know. Yeah, like I think it exists in that territory, somewhere between 5, 6, 7. I think I'd want to have it in ahead of Gears of War. I think, even though I think Gears of War is a superb game. But Crash Bandicoot, the original, is also pretty special. I have a similar fondness for, say, something like Crash Bandicoot as I would for Worms, the original. So, I don't know.
James, what are you thinking?
I think I agree. I don't know if it goes ahead of Crash, but I could see why and where it would go ahead of, say, LA Noire, Sunset Overdrive. But it's just I don't know. It's a hard one to call.
For me, it goes ahead of Crash, I think. But I don't have all that much affinity for Crash either.
Sure.
I loved it at the time.
I think we're all kind of in agreement reasonably, at least on the first or second episode whenever we talk about Crash, that maybe Crash 2 was the better game. Right?
Yeah.
Same problem.
But
I know.
Also, we're going to the same issue with Worms, so we're just going to have like Crash Bandicoot, Worms, Crash Bandicoot 2, Worms 2. How's that going to work out? But yeah, okay. Well, you see, here's the thing. It's like, if it goes above Crash, I'm pretty sure it goes above Mario Strikers Charged.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. God, that's got pushed down a bunch now. That's in 5th.
That's how
crazy,
things work.
But now I'm wondering, are we just trying to push down Mario Strikers Charge? Are we trying to hide? Is this like a scandal that we're trying to hide? And this, like, get it washed out. Just keep on pushing it out.
I'm happy with that. No, that's going to my grave. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I love it. But like, it's got its place, and like even 6 in the top 28 would be incredible. But if Worms went ahead of it, that is. I can kind of live with it being anywhere in that range, 5 to 7, like I said. So I feel like it's better than Mario Strikers Charged. Yeah. No, it is. Sorry. Yeah. I think really it is. It's a better game.
Fair enough.
All right, 5th.
I can live with 5th.
Awesome. All right, we're locked in. All 3 agree. Worms, the original 1995 Team 17's wonderful 2D battle game. I don't know what the fuck you call it. It's in 5th.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like the original MOBA.
Yeah, it's a battle. 2D battle arena game. That's the one.
Absolutely.
Except none of the worms have any skills or traits whatsoever.
So like that's
Just
other
stupid names.
Yeah, other than the very first list, that's like the highest probably 2 rankings from a single list.
Yeah,
so far.
totally. What's
James,
the next one?
What were you saying there, James?
Oh,
just
I was just gonna say, didn't they also, just remember back, do the whole Team 17 cannon fodder thing where like some of the worms are called like Wedge, or were they Briggs and Toots or something?
I can't
Who
remember.
were the first people you always got in cannon fodder?
Jules, Jops, and Stu.
Yeah, I think they were always like worms names were the same ones for cannon fodder names.
Oh, right.
Yeah, they had. I liked all the different teams they had. They did the same kind of thing you had in Sensible Soccer, where they had like custom teams, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you could name all your like, because I was probably 10 at the time. It was like,
Ian Rush,
Bart, Lisa, Marge. Yeah, I was really incredibly intelligent.
Grobalar.
Rush.
Yeah, exactly.
Fowler. Ruddock.
McManamon.
All right, guys, we're just naming Liverpool players now.
By the way, any Spurs fans out there, thanks so much, lads. Fucking smashing.
I was about to say, you must be delighted.
That was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Oh.
Yeah, it's real
everyone in the Premier League
mess.
did a bad job this year except for Leicester. Everyone did a bad job except for Leicester.
Yes, just shame all around. Shame,
Yep.
shame.
I would like to apologise to everyone in Birmingham and the surrounding area, because at the start of the season I backed Aston Villa as my Premiership team, and we all know what happened next. So that was my
been
omen.
about 800 years since they've been out of the top division. Thank you, James.
Right. 17 points. Ugh. It's almost as bad as when you supported Wolves.
Oh God.
No, it's poor Blackburn Rovers will never get back in.
Blackburn, that's who it was. Yeah. Anyway, what's next, Deno?
Okay, so let's get through rip-offs list. It's been great so far. So 2013 hit game.
Ooh.
I have just a lot of love for this little indie game, made by a man called Lucas Pope under the kind of, I suppose, pseudonym almost, or I don't know. Maybe it's just his company's name, I suppose, probably a better way to put it. 3909. Papers, Please.
Yeah.
Oh.
Winner of a bunch of awards at the Independent Games Festival later that year. Yeah, I've played this. I haven't actually completed it ever, interestingly enough. I've played it loads, though, but I've never completed it. James, what about you?
I'm in the same boat. I played a lot of it, but never gotten never finished it. Yes.
Well, I suppose it's one of these games that has kind of bears the question: what's completion like? Because you'll go through it. There's many separate completions. So yeah, there's probably one super like this is what you're supposed to do kind of. But like, I think every playthrough you do of it, whether it's 10 days or 14 days or 6 days, has its own kind of finish. God, I love this game, guys. I love it. I love it so much.
It's
so oppressive. It's so oppressive.
It's what is it? Glory to Arstrovskia, whatever it is. It's a weird game because it's like an achievement in the fact that it's a game about doing the most banal like job in the world, but somehow makes it compelling and also like increasingly more upsetting and like just awful. It drip feeds it on both ends, right? Because like the things that are happening to you in your own life with your trying to you keep your whole family getting money, and what's happening to your own country where it's all sort of breaking down, and then on the other end you're like being required by your job to dispense sadness on all these other people who are just trying to get the fuck away from a war. What are you thinking about it, James?
I'm actually, it's one of those games that like I always play, and I'm bummed I haven't put way deeper time into, because like the sort of subject matter and that whole like style of like really it's sort of based almost like a Soviet mid 60s 70s feeling. All that stuff really fascinates me, all that sort of like Cold War sort of stuff. I'm a huge fan for just like that sort of sense of this sort of this style of society that it presents, like the very strong images, and I think that's what's most striking about it. I think, as you said, it's the job you're technically doing, and the sort of part of the game of like finding this out is simple at a very base level, but it's how it is presented and how it looks and how it feels, which I absolutely love it. This like whole totalitarian society that sort of puts forward. And as you said, it's like, you know, he's just a cog in the wheel, but like at that point, at a gate, watching it sort of go through and sort of seeing how his own country is breaking down is really, really cool.
Dennis, what about yourself? You love this game.
Yeah, I just love it. Like, again, it's that really oppressive thing. Like, straight away you enter into that game, it's got that like really simple but like just daunting music that I love. I'm closing my eyes as I speak because I really love it. Yeah, and I think like maybe not overtures, but like there's a slight similarity with, say, Deus Ex, because it really allows you to, like, without getting spoilers, like you'll come across people and they will tell you something, and it's up to you to believe them or not. It's up to you whether you want to take on board what they're saying, and if you want to kind of maybe almost do a little mini mutiny or something. And these things have repercussions, and they're actually pretty impactful for something that's like obviously so like 8-bit, like not well animated.
Yeah, so disconnected from reality.
But the repercussions feel quite impactful, and
it's like the moral tale that it spins is not one that's like super obvious either, like so many games where you're like, oh, okay, you know, this person, like there's that crazy old codger who keeps coming up with like the fucking passport that's basically drawn on a piece of paper, and then like after you're like, this person's just mental, like just wide, and then eventually just turns up with all the paperwork. You're like, oh yeah, you can come in, like good job. Or like the guy who's like, you know, slips you a coin and says, you know, my wife is behind me. It was like my fourth day or something, and he said like, my wife is behind me, she doesn't have the paperwork, please stamp her through. And she like hands you through this like this crummy passport that doesn't work, and none of the 5 other things they've asked you to collect that day. And I stamped it, and she like said thank you or something like that, and like you could see running wrong, and I got like a demerit on my day that day, but it wasn't that big a thing. But the stakes keep getting higher and higher and higher, and I remember like, what was it, this old woman, they started making me do body scans, and you're like, oh, this is just getting a bit fucked up now. And then this old woman comes up, you're like, oh, I really don't want to have to do this body scan, but I'm going to do the body scan. And then she has a fucking gun, and you're like, what? Like, it's just, yeah, that it has that real sense of unease about morality, where it's not doing the obvious thing every time, and you're really not sure if what you're doing is right or wrong half the time, or if people are manipulating you, or if you're oppressing them. It's all over the place. Super game, so clever. Just like Worms, whole new genre, just fucking made up a thing. Here's a game. Yeah, you've never seen this before.
And it actually hasn't really been replicated.
No,
because it's such a singular idea that like that you can't just be like, oh, I could apply the same to, I don't know, working in X, Y, or Z. Like we have a bunch of games like Cook Serve Delicious, and you know, I don't know, there's a bunch of those like ones on iOS that you kind of make a fast food or whatever.
But like Surgeon Simulator or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's not in that grouping. It's really its own thing, and I think it's really unique, and it's kind of, you know, it's pretty singular.
This is going to be a difficult one to rate, because what's so good about it is how unique it is and the style it presents. But then it's got. I guess the reason why it's difficult is because it's an indie game, and because they're so small and inexpensive comparatively, so it's hard to like have them rub up shoulders against bigger games.
But this one does do it so well, and I mean, like the art style to it, and just as Dennis said, like the job where you're placed in this. There's so many games where you could be like, oh, I'm a chef, I'm doing something else, but you literally have these fictional people's lives in your hand. You are the gatekeeper.
It's weird how somebody who made a game on his own was able, like, usually that means that the programming is good but the art is shit, or the art is good but the game is super simple, or the music is, you know, but he just did a great job. Good job, Lucas Pope.
So much thought.
Where are you thinking, Dennis?
It's high. It's got to be, like, it's not going to be, I don't think it breaks the top 5, but it's hard to put it much lower than, say, somewhere like 10 at the moment. Like, I don't think, look, I love Papers, Please, but if, like, it's not going to be a top 10 game ever made, but it's a really excellent game. It's an incredible idea, executed very well. Like, I can't put it low. I think, like, Transistor is probably about as low as I could see it going. Personally, it's better than like anything else on the list. After that, I say, oh, Papers, Please, way better than. It's only upwards of there, and it goes back to what you're saying, which is, okay, it's a small indie game, and like it's hard to compare Papers, Please to Gears of War. So, I don't know. Let's give me some pushback here.
Yeah, I wouldn't actually push back. I would say that one thing you did say really touched a nerve, which was what it was like trying to do. It did perfectly, which is you could also say about Worms and Deus Ex. And when I look at number 10, I'm saying like that's the biggest flaw that we have with LA Noire, is that it's amazing that it's swung for the fences for this like crazy high concept thing, and we love that it tried even if it failed. And in fact, a lot of the feedback we got on that episode were people saying go back and play it, like it really does fail. Like the amount of people who've completed that game is such a small percentage. So it's when something like Papers, Please is it's just perfect how they did it. Like, just great job. Pats on the back. Don't worry about it. Don't fix anything. It's great. It's hard to put that lower than a game that has like such a massive weight of like, I wouldn't say disappointment, but maybe disappointment on it for failing to do that.
Like a tempered disappointment. Like, it's not universally terrible, but it just wasn't right there.
It's a shame.
Yeah. I almost feel like right above LA Noire might be just a nice place to put it.
I definitely was thinking as well that like it for this list as where it stands right now, it's top 10 for me. And then it's sort of like I think 10. I think it goes ahead of skips it ahead to LA Noire. Like what's ahead of it right now has gotten high accolades from Danny in Sunset Overdrive, Gears of War from the two of you, and then then we get into the heavy hitters for us. Yeah. So I think 10 is a nice place for it right now.
I love the idea that it's sitting behind like this morose, like desaturated, sodden game is like right beside this bombastic, oversaturated like gore fest in Sunset Overdrive.
Pour money into the development of Sunset Overdrive kind of thing, focus groups, everything, but yeah, like that's the great thing about this list. It's the great thing about video games. I think it's why we all love them. They're super eclectic, and there's a whole bunch of reasons to love or hate a game.
Yeah, to speak, I guess we should probably speak to why it goes underneath Sunset then, and you guys are kind of
you.
Yeah. I guess like it's on me then, and I owe it to the list and to you guys and to everyone else to talk about it. I do think it goes underneath that game. I think the fact that I'm still so high on Sunset, despite the fact that I don't have any nostalgia with it whatsoever. I think what Sunset tried to do, it also did perfectly. There's nothing about that game I would change. And I also think what it did is a more difficult thing in a way, is that Papers, Please found it created its own. It's not like a genre game. It's this interesting, unique thing. Whereas what Sunset Overdrive was doing was jumping into a well-trodden area for the previous 8 years and managed to make something that was best in class. And I think that's like deserving of higher accolade, I think, than executing on a unique idea.
Yep, I think that's great, and I think straight away there was a parallel there with Sunset Overdrive about just how well it achieved its own goal. So I'm happy with that. I think I'm really comfortable with that. Cool.
We've had a long chat on these 3 games. You have 3 more though, right?
I have 3 more. So this list, I think actually this list is a bit easier to go through, and they're really some interesting quality games as well. But kind of okay. So I'm just going to hop into this. It's from @column_Cusack. He's known to the group. Let's just put that out there.
Okay, yeah.
And
Q is a friend of ours.
I'm going to start with a 1994 game. As I listed out earlier with one of our games, Worms. This came out on Genesis, SNES, Sega CD, Game Boy, Sega Game Gear, Windows, and Game Boy Advance. It's
any other clues? Don't say the name of the game. Any other clues?
Okay, 1994, Shiny Entertainment.
Oh, I knew it. Okay, before you said Shiny, I was going to guess Earthworm Jim.
And you're absolutely right on. And it came out in a HD remake, I think, on the 360. I remember that was my most recent playing of it, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So
I'm gutted I didn't say Earthworm Jim straight away, because it was literally on the tip of my tongue.
Bizarre as well, because like loads of games would have that. Those systems, but good man.
Maybe I heard him talk about it in the past. I don't know. I've played Earthworm Jim. I definitely didn't complete it because it was fucking hard, and I was a child.
Yeah, it's impossible. Yeah.
James, what about you?
Yeah, I think everyone's at least in their childhood had a friend on the Genesis who had a copy, or at least I did anyway, had copies of Earthworm Jim. It was a game that everyone wanted to play. It was a game that everyone probably had a go at and just died. Like, it was so hard.
Super hard.
So.
This was my... What was the game you rented 20 million times, Dennis?
Gex.
Gex. This was my Gex. I rented it from Abbott's at the bottom of the Folly about 4 or 5 times on the Mega Drive. I think every time thinking that I'd do better and never
lying to yourself.
Everything, but that game was so fucking hard, man.
Yeah, even like I got it on 360 in HD remake. This is after I've played Super Meat Boy and M Plus, and like I've completed those games. They're like, you know, I was pretty high on the rankings in like worldwide. I fancy myself as being pretty good at these games, and Earthworm Jim is cruel in its difficulty and gorgeous. Just goddamn, does it look good and hilarious. And Earthworm Jim is just the best licensed video game ever made, right?
I feel like, what the fuck was that? Oh, Fonzie's fallen.
Fonzie's down.
Fonzie's jumped the shark.
landing.
He did not agree with your Earthworm Jim assessment. I mean, I feel like this game had a massive amount of love from our generation because we were so into the cartoon. We have to give a special shout out to this game was also designed by Shiny, and I think the lead designer was Dave Perry, who is from Northern Ireland, so he's almost one of our countrymen. I don't know. I feel like there was this massive like anticipation and weight behind it. I think the main reason I remember being so excited about it was for 1994, was it? It looked fucking gorgeous. It looked it didn't look exactly like the cartoon, but it looked enough like the cartoon that it felt like it was the cartoon. And like even the animations were really good. It didn't just look great in terms of like the actual things, the models themselves, but it animated really in a fun way. Like I remember the cows you'd keep hitting and they'd fly off, and the refrigerators as well that you'd launch, like
to launch cows. Like
there was like interesting verticality with like in the levels, and you could sort of, you know, slow yourself down with the helicopter thing, and there was a lot going on, but I'm not really sure if I'm still not sure if it was good. I know it was good.
It actually was. And the Scarecrow levels, they were so fun. Oh my. Do you remember the 3D kind of ones? The actual 3D levels where you're like speeding down a thing and you have to go left and right. It's almost like, not Super Monkey Ball, but like kind of a rail thing.
I totally forgot about that until you mentioned it.
They were great. You collect all the little orbs and stuff. Oh, it was a bunch of fun. Really hard, but like a lot of fun.
What other memories of it do you have like that? Like the Scarecrow-y levels?
I just remember, like, I don't know, every time I play in it, that almost dread because of how difficult it was. I had it on PC and just how hard it was. The Scarecrow levels, I suppose, were the main non-standard platforming levels, so that's really it. Like, going back to what you did, again, bringing in all the show's humor, really good licensed game, really was. Dropping fridges to fling cows, there's a lot of hilarity. I did really love it. I have probably more affection for it than I should have, based on how much I've completed of it, because even though I've played plenty of it, I've never gone past, I don't know how many levels exactly, but I'd be surprised if I got past about a third of the game.
I'm watching a speed run now, and this game looks fucking as hard as nails. As like, some of these later levels are bloody ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot you could like get out of the suit and jump around and do all that stuff. God, there was a lot. There was a lot going on. I guess there was a lot of like 2D platformers back then, so it really had to like do a lot to stick out. And I guess it spawned a sequel as well, so it must have sold well. I don't know, it's a weird one, because I remember playing it loads and always being hard at it, but I don't really know if I remember it as fondly as you guys do. Yeah,
well, it's going to be a tough one to rank, because firstly, I don't know if any of us have like gotten super deep into it, but
I feel like if 3 of us have played it a bit, we're probably alright.
We can rank it. Yeah, I'm comfortable ranking it. I mean, it's difficult. James, you open the discourse on ranking this bad boy.
And where I put this, I will say this. I think maybe that's why Fonzie left, was because Earthworm Jim to me, I think we've nailed. Our main point is it was a really hard game. But it was one where you sort of had to have it, and it was like the cool thing to have, and it was the cool thing to play because how funny the cartoon was, and how sort of like obscure the game would be, and have those references with cows and everything to it. So it became like you know the cool kids had Earthworm Jim. So in saying that, to kick all those 11, 10-year-old cool kids down, I don't know if it goes higher than 15.
Okay.
Like, I guess I'd put it above Spyro. I could okay, maybe I don't know. Maybe it goes 15.
That's actually not a bad shout.
It's in that range, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. I'm kind of like I'm backtracking, kind of going back and forth between about 14 and 18. It's in that range for sure. 15 seems good. I almost feel a bit harsh on Spyro because Spyro is definitely a lot broader, a lot more playable, probably a lot more fun than we give it credit for.
That is becoming our that area is becoming our dump bucket though, between like Pod Racer and Spyro. That's just like it's right in the middle as well.
Yeah.
Because I think the points brought up were good. Like, I mean, Earthworm Jim is beautiful. Like, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
I think it was a true. It was a game that, as you said, they did it well. They didn't just go like, oh, we have the license for this. We'll just make any old shit game. They made a game. It's hard not because it's broken. It's hard because it's hard. So there is qualities to it, but I just wonder. You know, I think around 15, around the middle section is probably where it does land. Into the dump.
Yeah. Into the gulch.
Like, I'm comfortable enough. Like, I'll put it this way, and yes, a lot of it's my own bias. But if I had to choose between Spyro and Earthworm Jim, I would choose Earthworm Jim.
I would go back and play it mostly so I could see if I was still shit at it.
And you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would play them both only because I haven't really done Spyro, but I would do Earthworm Jim first. I would rather do Earthworm Jim ahead of Spyro.
All right, that's
You
it.
comfortable with that?
15th for Earthworm
Excellent.
Jim. That's
Well
a good
done, guys.
shout. Can I do my party trick?
Absolutely.
I remember the full name for Queen Slug for a butt.
Okay, go for it.
Queen pulsating, bloated, festering, sweaty, pus-filled, malformed slug for a butt.
Very good at
I take my bow.
Tangler.
Thank you. What's next
I
on
bow
our
as well.
list?
Okay, so this one, there's no need for me to give an outrageous intro. I'll just tell you what it is. 1984 NES game made by Nintendo. Anyone want to guess?
Balloon fight.
Close enough. Duck Hunt.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
don't know. It's a classic. I think it's gonna. Like,
I mean, isn't everything that's that old classic in some
yeah,
respect?
like what? Like that's a stupid thing for me to say, right?
Isn't
It's clearly a
Minesweeper
classic.
classic?
Yeah, there's loads of bad cars that are classic cars. It doesn't make them good. And Duck Hunt is funny because I was just doing a little bit of kind of pre-show research and looking at like where it goes, and like there was a top 100 NES games, and it didn't even rank highly in that. It was like in the 70s. Like, so even within NES games, like, we have a lot of love for this in a funny way. I remember a friend of mine had this. I didn't have a NES. He had the NES with the little gun, and like I always wanted to play Duck Hunt, and I would always get really bored playing Duck Hunt, and we'd just go straight back to Street Fighter, straight back, because it's so much better. It's not a good game.
It's like the NES Zapper, whatever that thing was called. The like it was a time before Time Crisis, so it must have like blown people's fucking goddamn minds in the mid '80s when you were shooting at your television. Like, I'm sure that was mental, but also it's like bad VR demos. You're like, oh my god, this is amazing. Now get me out of it because I'm bored and I've been in here for 3 minutes. Like, Duck Hunt is just like. Maybe not all, but like it's such an impressive technical exercise that I think when you remove that sort of power from it, it's just a boring ass game.
But the dog does a good Muttley impression as well. Did it like,
Dude, look how long it took them to get him in Smash or anything. It was like such an afterthought. It was like, we're fucking whatever. Duck
And
Hunt
that's
dog gets
clearly developers being ironic kind of thing. Like, Duck Hunt is loved as like in the same way like Nicolas Cage in The Wicker Man is loved. You know, it's just like, we love this because it's just dreadful.
I mean, it was no Hogan's Alley, so I mean, I'll give it that.
Right.
You know what? It's funny because when you first were like Duck Hunt, I was like, oh yeah, I love Duck Hunt. But it is, my mind first does go to like think how smart and clever the technology was to work with the gun. and like how well it was, and like I think the game then later became with friends like how far you could be away from the TV and get the zapper to work, and then it sort of really tried that way. You know what, I'll tell this for Nintendo. It was a wasted opportunity that I don't think they ever brought any of those old school classic games to the Wii when the Wii was really going there with the zapper thing. Like, that would have been a great way to
to waste $5.
You never know. I think they would have sold many a copy if they're like, we've redone Duck Hunt, and you could play it through, or even just the classic one and put it on a virtual console.
So like, here's the other thing, right? Is that whole, like, the technology was interesting, but even the game they made was just clay pigeon shooting. Like, it wasn't like they made anything actually interesting. They just made like a fucking shit. Like, clay pigeon shooting is the worst thing to do with a real gun. So Duck Hunt is like, they had a gun. They could have made a game. I mean, like you said, Hogan's Alley, right? And then we eventually get like Mad Dog McCree and Time Crisis and it all. You're like, yes, now we're on the right hunt. Nintendo went and made a game where you shoot ducks. Like, fuck off.
In fact, I think there was there's a mode in that where you clay pigeon shoot as well.
Great, just in case the ducks is too violent. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't grow up with an NES, so this is a tough one for me to.
But I guess, like, for me anyway, the proof pudding, I'm just going to repeat myself, is that, like, as a kid, I wanted to play this game all the time, and every time I got my hands on it, it was just like, cool, I'm done with this. Get me away from this. It's really bad. So,
I want to be Blanca.
It's kind of, what side of Minesweeper does it go?
I was going to say, what side of Excite Bike does it go?
No, it's no way. It's not better than Excite Bike. It's not in the area of Papa and Yo. Gex the Witcher can't be brought down by this. No way. I haven't played Hellgate or Unreal Championship, but they have enough pedigree that I know that they're not garbage. Like, it's come on, Duck Hunt. It's in the bottom three.
It's fair enough.
It's better than Minesweeper.
It's better than Minesweeper.
Fine, I can live with that.
You know what, Danny? There's only one game on the parole board right now, and I think many games of Duck Hunt might get it. Okay, I'm putting it at 29.
All right, yeah,
ahead of Minesweeper.
Great, Duck Hunt. That's it.
Danny, you ratify that? Yeah, great.
Yeah, in.
Excellent.
Duck Hunt's 29th. The Order 1886 is now the 31st on our list. The worst game ever made. Duck Hunt in at number 29. Do we have one more on this list, I think?
Yeah, and we'll finish it up with this.
Right.
So 2006. So actually, Papers, Please is much newer, but the second newest game of this episode. It's another Nintendo game, but from the Wii, and it's pretty iconic of the Wii, as you might guess. You can probably guess it now.
Mario Sunshine. Oh, Mario Galaxy.
No.
I was gonna say no. It's gonna be Wii Sports.
It's exactly Wii Sports.
Oh wow. God, these are...
You know what?
Bravo, Denis. These are 6 great games to take out.
I was genuinely during the week wondering when Wii Sports would come on the list. I was thinking fondly of Wii Sports. So
wow.
Yeah.
So I remember, who was there? A bunch of us went to games.
We all were.
Did we all go there? Us three and Dale.
Yeah, the games in Leipzig.
No. You're talking.
I'm talking about launch day.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Actually, I wasn't there. Somebody had to pick up mine.
Okay.
That's true. Yes, I think I bought your one. I think, and then you paid me back. That. You never paid me back. You owe me money.
Too late.
Yeah, we played it at Gamescom in Leipzig. We also played it in Birmingham when we went on a trip to Birmingham. It was in a supermarket.
Yeah, in the basement.
Jesus. And we got to play. They were doing like a Wii tour, I guess, in England.
Just
we just
before release.
Yeah. So we played it there. And then the day of launch, the three of us, me, James, and our friend Dale, went down to GameStop, bought 4 of them, went back to Dale's house. It was the first launch console I'd ever bought in my entire life. And it was only the second Nintendo thing I'd ever owned. My GameCube was... Dale got into the GameCube. I remember, like, immediately getting... all 4 of us, or 3 of us, cramming into his small front, back sitting room... and attempting to play like tennis in this like cramped little spot, but it was fucking brilliant. It was.
Wasn't it?
It was so good. Like, it was brilliant, and it never stopped being brilliant. I remember playing like a year later, and my grandmother, who used to go bowling in Dublin until she became, an old woman, coming upstairs and like doing the bowling and like getting into it and like enjoying it. And the boxing was fun, even though it didn't really work that well. and like you could cheese the tennis after a while. The baseball was super fun. Man, Wii Sports is the reason the Wii fucking sold as much as it did, right?
100%. And not even to fine it, to get the gemerald, the pureness of it is in fact the have we lost Den? Oh no, Dennis is there.
No, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, no, I thought you were further in. No, I was going to say the bowling. It is 100% like the bowling sold that more than anything.
Right.
Like, the golf was great. Everything was fantastic. Like, I honestly don't think that there has been a piece of software on any console that's been better at launch than Wii Sports.
I think you're
Like,
right.
absolutely.
It might be the best launch game ever.
I think there's a
Yeah,
really
and
strong
let alone-
argument for that. Yeah.
let alone that they gave it away free. And like, I would honestly even say, out of all the problems that the Wii U had, and it had many in terms of marketing and everything else, is that they did not have anything as near as strong as Wii Sports. They should just had Wii Sports 2, Wii U Sports, something to go with it. And it was just like, I mean, but Wii Sports is just fantastic. The bowling is the gem, and like the par 3 golf is just
The golf is so
a lot of fun to go
Oh,
through.
it's so much fun.
Yeah, the baseball was just so much fun. Like, I've just been remembering a party with people, and they wanted to throw in the baseball. People don't even know how the rules of the game work, just to go through it. And you know, everything worked. The tennis, yeah, like the boxing was probably the only thing that was kind of so. But
Yeah, my
you know,
my
it's
dad used
like,
to play the golf as well, loads, and he never plays video games at all. I guess the only other, I was just looking it up there, Tetris did launch with the American Game Boy, so that might also be
okay.
up there with the highest ever. But like, the Wii almost sold as much as the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color combined. Actually, I think it might have sold more than the Game Boy because they did combine it with the Color. So the Wii sold 101 million units worldwide, 1 million off the original PlayStation. Only 17 million shy of the Game Boy Color and Game Boy combined. The DS, obviously, highest selling handheld of all time, has got 154, and then the PS2 is up top with over 155 million. But like 101 million units for the company that previously had the fucking GameCube,
Yeah.
and it's
And all shipped with this brilliant game.
same. Like, you think of like all the stuff that, like PlayStation Move, Kinect, all these hardwares that had so much like possibilities in them, and nobody ever made that piece of software that did it. I mean, there were some great games on the Wii that used it, and some great games that didn't use it, but like, the reason to buy a Wii was Wii Sports, especially for the first year.
they could have literally just had that as a standalone, like one of the systems, just in like, look at our sporting, like look at our game console that just comes with the sporting thing.
Actually, now that I might be, I think it only came bundled in Europe. Now that I think about it, I don't
really?
I don't think North America got Wii Sports in it,
Okay.
which is also
Really?
pretty.
None of my business.
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure of that, actually. Yeah.
They're missing out then.
I mean, I'm sure everyone bought it anyway. Like, it was either
It
that
probably
or
wouldn't have been full price of things, you know.
Right.
It's like-
it was either that or fucking, what was the name of that stupid samurai game? Red Steel.
Oh, Red Steel, yeah.
Yeah,
What
that
a
was
beaut.
one I got at launch. You probably picked that up for me.
Yep, I probably. I'm not even sure if we played it that first day, actually. God.
No.
There's a lot of launch games for the Wii, actually.
Hmm.
Excite Truck, Happy Feet, Madden 07. So many great games.
Zelda, Twilight Princess.
Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam was a launch game, apparently. It's crazy. Call of Duty 3. God, I forgot about that. All right, this is going high, I think, right? Yeah, it is. You're right. It's the total opposite of Duck Hunt. It's like it
The
just used
perfect
that.
meld of technology and software. Like, you have a new piece of hardware that's a bit gimmicky with
Yeah.
the perfect game for it.
I would happily play Wii Sports for like an hour today.
Yeah. Oh, I think you could easily at any party still. You could be like, oh, okay. Well, not any party, but like if you had
A sex
friends over and
party,
you drew.
yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Funeral's not too good, but every now and again, yeah. you could easily, if you had friends around and you're in a festive mood, you could easily be like, hey, look, let's plug in the Wii, let's do some bowling, let's do some baseball, let's see who can hit grand slam, hit home runs. Let's do a game of, you could easily do it and set it up, and I think people would be like into it, like not just, they would be like, oh, 100%, let's play the Wii.
Where do we think then? I'm like,
I feel sorry for Worms. Already gets knocked down one. That's a pretty shame. I put it right in there, top 5.
Like, it's
Why
hard to,
stop there?
Yeah, it's hard to argue.
True.
It's such a great game. Like, it's really hard to argue against that. It's top 5.
Could you make the argument the greatest sport game ever made? Is that another question? If we dig deep and thought about what's coming up or what could have come, is this the greatest all-round sports game?
You could say that. I think it sounds ridiculous, but when I think about it, like maybe actually.
Like I'm not gonna put my favorite FIFA above it, or my favorite Pro Ev, or my favorite anything else. So.
God, no, I'm looking at the first two and thinking where it lands. I could see this being number one. Like, I could see a universe in which Wii Sports gets higher than Deus Ex. Like, maybe I'm crazy, but like, this game was, God, it's like it's beloved by people who love games and people who never play games, by like old people and young people, by fucking people all over the world. Like, it's popular in Asia, it's popular in Europe, it's popular in North America. Like, this is a fucking Tetris. This is
like if Deus Ex sold 100 million copies, like 5 million people might play it through to the finish, and like 95 million people would play like 20 minutes of it, just because they're like, okay, this isn't for me. Wii Sports sold probably something not a couple hundred million, but you know, in the tens of millions anyway.
Yeah.
And most people, I would guess, I'm absolutely speculating, most people would have put 10 or 15 hours into it because it was just so much fun to play, and it was like you brought people over. Like I've played around with some VR headsets, and you get bored of them in 10 minutes. You don't get bored with Wii Sports in 10 minutes. You'll play it for weeks on end. Like I don't know how many hours I put into it. Like if I had a Steam, like if the Wii had a counter like Steam does, I'm sure it might be 50 hours plus. I don't know. It was really great. And
it's also a game that like eventually you'd get bored of, but then a month or two later you'd be like back in again. So.
And it is completely the universal, like, this is the game, like, when you think of board games, when you think of everything else, when you think unifying people together, you could have 5-year-olds playing with 50-year-olds, everyone in between, older, and it was, I mean, I guess it might be once it becomes more affordable and, you know, easier to use, the VR games, you see those videos of people being like, oh, I'm like that whole thing. It's sort of crazy to think, but like 10 years ago, the fact that, you know, people were watching their motions being captured in real time and were close enough, and, you know, their actions showing the speed of the ball or the swing of their hit, it was one of those things where people were like, oh my god, look at this. I mean, I'm playing this game, my movements are getting it.
VR would fucking die to have a Wii Sports now. Like, any one of them. Like,
it is exactly what it needs.
I do want to temper our discussion though, because we're getting really into it and we want it to be pretty high. But we're only looking at the positives. There were negatives. The controls were mostly great, but especially in the games you've already mentioned, which was, well, we've mentioned all of them, but bowling and golf is where it excelled. The tennis did become a thing where you essentially were just going. You could just sit down, not be stand up, and just be going, come on. And the boxing was actually really poor, right? Yeah. The boxing was a poor game. So 25%, like 1/4 of the
baseball was good too.
Sorry, there was 5 modes. Okay, so.
Yes, 5. So 2/5 weren't great.
So it's not a perfect package. Now, that didn't matter because you just open up the game, you play the game you want to play. So you play a round of golf, you play a couple of rounds of bowling, you try to play a perfect game. You don't get it because you always miss on your 9th bowl or something.
Yeah.
But
and there was like a top level to the mastery. Like there was, you would get to a stage where, I'm too good at this game, there's no point in playing it anymore.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why it was fun to come back to it again after a while. But like after all with the bowling, it was like, I basically just smashed everyone already, so I do that. Like you do exactly. I used to do the flick up and down, so you put crazy backspin on it. I flick it up and then release on the way down. It was like didn't look like I did that with a real bowling ball. I'd snap my wrist, but like it would work every time. So you're right. Yeah, there was like a time where you're like, oh well, let's not play Wii Sports because I know how to play it now.
Yeah, we'd regularly bowl in the 200, like late 200s, like in a game, and that's okay. Grant, they weren't trying to make it. Oh, this is real life bowling, but like, it did get to a point like mastery. So, I would temper it a little bit with that, maybe.
Where do you guys think? I'm looking at 2 or 3, maybe. I don't know.
So
maybe 4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah. Like my love of Super Meat Boy is keeping it where it is, isn't it? great, but like it's just a perfect game, so it can't be moved. Yeah, so like I think maybe Wii Sports pops in either side of Super Meat Boy. I'd be comfortable with that. I'd be comfortable going ahead of it.
I'd be comfortable with it either side of Meat Boy. I
James,
you might have talked me.
James,
it's a top 5 game.
I think Danny
definitely
probably
is.
errs on the side of 3. I probably err on the side of 4. James, let's give you the
You
control.
guys might have talked me putting it ahead of Super Mario World, like when you were saying, like just the fact that it's such a big game,
Cool.
and I'd like that is my game. It's Jesus, so hard. It's probably more to 3 for me, but like all the points we brought up are true. Like, are we thinking? And again, this, you know what the thing is, this is our list, and I think I go back to that.
This is the list. This is the list.
Oh, okay, sorry. This is the list. But I mean,
this is right.
Yes, but we are. But in saying that, as the gatekeepers of the list, we are infallible. So the list is what's going to stay strong and keep going. And so like that is what I'm trying to consider, like for where I would put the game personally, as opposed to what it did for society as a whole. I'm pretty sure most of the wars stopped closing down around 2006.
Yeah.
Because we came out and they, like, I remember there's like a day on Christmas where like soldiers laid down their guns and played Wii bowling for an afternoon, and then went back to the sides of the trenches. But so there is that element. I mean, Danny, you talked to me a higher. Like I was like, oh yeah, it's a top 5 game, it's fun, but you know, it's sort of a sports game, it's sort of gimmicky, but it is absolutely huge. I'll say, fuck.
He's talking me back up as
For friendship, Dennis, I'll put it number 4.
4.
I'll put number 4 behind Super Meat Boy.
No, I'm against that. I'm vetoing it. I think 3.
Okay. Fair enough.
Is it better? Is it not as good as Super Mario World? I have no fucking dog in that race.
It is. It is. I think it's more universal. I think as it's sports and as it's sort of interactive and it's, you know, several players.
Dude, it's more universal than anything on this list, except maybe for our second to last game.
Yeah, Duck Hunt. And Minesweeper as well. I will say 3 then. No, it's 2. Fuck it, I want to say 2. So I'm saying 2. Danny's saying 3. Dennis is saying 4.
Yeah, we're going with 2 because I gave you that power, and apparently I can do that. So 2
I think 2. I would be happy with 2.
Yeah, well, I had to talk you down off the ledge. You were trying to put it number 1.
It'd be so interesting to put it number 1 though. I think our sort of snobbery, us being the super cool gatekeepers that we are.
No, I don't think so.
Or like, oh, Deus Ex.
Deus Ex
I
is
wonder what,
like
you know what?
one of the fucking best games ever designed. It's not like, it doesn't have that populist thing to it, but like it's fucking tremendous. Even after like whatever 16 years of scrutiny, still brilliant.
Yeah. Do you think we could get in touch with Kieran Gillen, or like if the fans could get in touch with Kieran Gillen, ask him to write a review for Wii Sports? We can see where he puts it. We can see if he gets, because I think I'm gonna go from memory and say that he gave 95% to Deus Ex.
I think 96 was the highest they ever gave, and they didn't give it to Deus Ex. Half-Life 1.
They went to Half-Life.
Yeah, and a couple of others, like I think maybe Age of Empires. Something. I think you're right. I think it was probably 95.
It's either like 94, 95. So I wonder what he'd give Wii Sports. I'll get on Kieran Gillen. Just be like, stop, whatever you're doing right now. There's no point in writing Guardians Galaxy. Just come in and write a review for Wii Sports.
All right, that's 6 wonderful games. Well done, Dan. You should do this every week. We've got Deus Ex. Let's actually go from the bottom. We've bumped our list up from 28 or 26, I guess it would be, to 32. 6 new entries. The lowest entry this week, Duck Hunt at number 30, still better than Minesweeper and The Order 1886. Earthworm Jim splitting the difference basically in number 16. Papers, Please, Lucas Pope's wonderful game, number 11, just missing out on the top 10. Not for want of trying though, because we have 3 new entrants in the top 10. Worms has been pushed down out of the top 5, it's now in 6. Just above Uncharted 2, Super Meat Boy, and our top 3 has 2 new entries. Super Mario World still in 3rd. The second best game on our list is Wii Sports, and we have another new entry at number 1, Deus Ex. What a great week. That was good. Nice work, Dennis.
That was fun. I enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's about it. Well, what are you guys gonna do for the rest of your day, your week? What else are you gonna play? I'm gonna get to the Stanley Parable. I promise. Dennis, what are you gonna play?
PES 2016. Got it there yesterday. It's so great. So I'm
Cool.
gonna, play some more of that.
Awesome. What about yourself, James?
I will finish Spec Up the Line. I might work through a few more Purgatory games. I'll look into it, but we'll see. There's a heap of 3DS games that I still haven't touched. So maybe I'll finally start a Link Between the Worlds.
Oh, awesome.
A few of those.
Yeah, good shout.
But we'll see.
And thank you so much to everyone who's emailed in. We have a bunch more to get through, obviously, but if you want to send one in, lies@atournamentoflies.com. We will be back next week. Make sure you check out our awesome shit website, Tournament of Lies. I used to be a web developer in a previous life. You'd never know. And we shall see you next time. Bye.